Archewell's thunderstrike, Meghan and Harry lead a global fight to protect children online. Australia's decision to ban social media for children under 16 on December 10, 2025, did far more than make global headlines. It sent a tremor of hope across continents, a collective exhale from parents, educators, psychologists, and child protection advocates who had been pleading for years for someone, somewhere, to finally take a courageous step. For so long, the world had watched silently as children became the unwilling test subjects of an unregulated digital experiment. For so long, families were forced to navigate a battlefield of algorithms designed to manipulate, capture, and reshape young minds. For so long, parents cried out for help while tech giants shrugged. But on that day, Australia rose above hesitation and fear of backlash and decided that children deserved protection, even if it meant challenging the most powerful industry of the modern age. The news travelled fast, flooding international media, social platforms, and political forums. But one response stood out, resonating more deeply and emotionally than most: the heartfelt praise and reflection from Prince Harry and Meghan's Sussex Archewell Foundation. Their reaction was not mechanical, not just a polite nod from a well-known organisation. It was layered with warmth, passion, and the unmistakable tone of two individuals who had lived through the harshest corners of the digital world and refused to let the next generation suffer the same. Archewell's statement didn't simply applaud Australia's bravery, it mourned the fact that it had even become necessary. When they said, "It shouldn't have come to this," they spoke as parents, as survivors of online cruelty, as advocates who had warned the world long before governments were ready to listen. Those 4 words became the emotional core of the entire global conversation. They captured a decade of escalating harm: children losing sleep at night because of online bullying, teens spiraling into anxiety and self-doubt because of impossible standards fed to them through algorithmic perfection, families destroyed after losing their children to self-harm, triggered by the relentless pressure of digital comparison, teachers helpless as attention spans shrank, psychologists overwhelmed as depression among minors quietly became the new normal. The Archewell Foundation, through years of research, collaboration with experts, partnerships with mental health organizations, and personal testimonies from families who had lost everything, already knew the true scale of the crisis. Their sorrow-filled acknowledgement that the world had waited far too long was not an accusation, but a lament overflowing with empathy. As Australia prepared to enforce its sweeping ban on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, X, and emerging algorithm-heavy apps designed to keep users hooked, the international community found itself staring at a mirror it had avoided for years. Australia had done what richer, more technologically advanced countries couldn't or wouldn't do. It had put children first, and Archewell's loving praise framed it not just as political progress, but as a profoundly human victory. Prince Harry and Meghan's advocacy for safer digital spaces is not something they picked up as a public relations strategy. It is woven into the fabric of their personal journey. Harry, shaped since childhood by the destructive power of media intrusion, has spent much of his adult life warning the world about what happens when industries prioritize profit over human safety. Meghan, subjected to some of the most brutal online abuse ever documented against a public figure, felt firsthand how misinformation, targeted harassment, and digital mobs can break a person's mental health. Their commitment was not theoretical. It was born out of wounds, survival, and the fierce desire to ensure no child grows up in a world where pain is profitable. Through Archewell, they met with teens who could no longer cope with the anxiety that social media fed them. They listened to parents whose children died because algorithms kept recommending self-harm content. They worked with mental health researchers who studied how constant connectivity rewired children's developing brains. They held conversations with teachers who watched emotional maturity decline as screen time rose. They partnered with governments, non-profits, unexpected allies, and lonely families searching for answers. Through every meeting, every summit, every initiative, one message kept emerging: the world had failed its children. And now Australia was trying to correct that failure. The Archewell Foundation's reaction to Australia's legislation felt like the culmination of years of advocacy. Their praise was filled with admiration, genuine, emotional, unfiltered admiration for a government that dared to make a decision most global leaders were too afraid to confront. They celebrated the Australian public, who supported the bill overwhelmingly, proving that parents were no longer willing to accept a digital reality that harmed their children's minds, bodies, and sense of self-worth. They celebrated the experts whose research finally carried enough influence to spark change. They celebrated the brave families who shared their darkest stories so others wouldn't suffer the same fate. But intertwined with that celebration was the unmistakable sadness of a truth that cannot be ignored. The world should never have allowed things to spiral this far. Archewell's statement reminded the world that no society should have to ban social media for minors. Not if tech companies had acted responsibly. Not if global governments had set regulations earlier. Not if the mental well-being of children had been prioritized from the beginning. The ban was necessary, yes, but only because everything else had failed. Still, Australia's decision ignited something powerful. Hope. Hope that other nations might follow. Hope that the digital industry might finally face the pressure it has avoided for years. Hope that online spaces might be forced to rebuild themselves with human health, not profit, as the primary design principle. Hope that a generation that had quietly suffered under the weight of curated perfection, tribal hostility, and algorithmic addiction might finally get a chance to breathe. And Archewell amplified that hope with a voice that parents around the world understood deeply. Their praise was written like a message from two parents who tuck their children in at night, knowing the digital world will one day come for them too. Their warmth carried the tenderness of people who love fiercely, who protect instinctively, and who know exactly what it means to be targeted, misrepresented, vilified, and distorted by digital narratives. It carried the strength of two advocates who refused to be silenced, even when media attacks tried to shame or discredit them. It carried the vibration of compassion shaped through pain, the kind of compassion that transforms policy into progress. Archewell celebrated Australia not as a government, but as a guardian. In their narrative, Australia was a parent choosing to hold its children's hands before the digital tide swept them away. And as messages of gratitude poured in from around the world, from mothers who long feared for their daughters, from fathers who watched their sons' confidence collapse, from teachers who begged for intervention, from psychologists who saw the data long before politicians cared, the importance of Australia's action became undeniable. Parents thanked the nation for doing what their own governments were too timid to consider. Teachers thanked lawmakers for finally acknowledging that the crisis unfolding in classrooms had digital roots. Advocates thanked Australia for proving that political courage is not extinct. And many thanked Archewell for standing with them long before it was fashionable. The Archewell Foundation has built years of advocacy around the concept of humane technology, a tech ecosystem that uplifts rather than destroys, educates rather than manipulates, and empowers rather than exploits. They push for safer digital environments, not because it is popular, but because it is right. Their celebration of Australia felt like a victory, not only for children, but for the quiet, persistent advocacy they have championed, even while being mocked by segments of the British media and certain online corners that thrive on negativity. Through their praise, Harry and Meghan reminded the world that creating a safer future for children is not radical, it is responsible, it is loving, it is necessary. And this is why their voice matters so much in this moment. When Archewell applauds a historic action, it does so with a depth that goes far beyond politics or publicity. It does so with humanity. Because both Harry and Meghan have become symbols, not of celebrity, not of royalty, but of resilience against a digital age that too often rewards cruelty. Their advocacy is a shield for those who cannot defend themselves. Their compassion is a balm for those who struggle in silence. Their sincerity resonates because they have nothing left to prove, only a world they are trying to improve. As the impact of Australia's legislation continues to ripple across continents, governments are already meeting to discuss similar measures. Parents are demanding more safeguards. Researchers are urging immediate action. And tech companies, for the first time in years, feel cracks forming in their once unshakable power. Whether they like it or not, the world is changing. And Archewell, with its unwavering dedication to protecting the mental well-being of children, stands at the heart of this shift, guiding, encouraging, supporting, and celebrating every step forward. Australia's move is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a global awakening. It is an invitation for other nations to act with the same courage. It is a blueprint for a world that values childhood enough to protect it. And Archewell's loving, heartfelt praise ensures that the message reaches every corner of the world. Children deserve safety, parents deserve peace, and society deserves the moral clarity to prioritize humanity over profit. The emotional weight behind Archewell's reaction will continue to echo for years. Their words captured not only the pride of witnessing a landmark decision, but also the sorrow of knowing it came after avoidable suffering. Yet their praise also carried optimism, the kind that pushes movements forward, transforms silence into action, and inspires governments to rethink what is possible. When Harry and Meghan speak about digital safety, they speak with the conviction of people who know the cost of inaction. And when they celebrate progress, they do so with the warmth of people who truly want the world to be gentler for every child who grows up in it. Australia's decision marks the dawn of a new chapter for childhood in the digital age. Archewell's support marks the affirmation that the world is finally waking up, and together they send a message filled with love, hope, and fierce protection. That children deserve better than what they have been given, that governments have the power to change the future, and that the heart of humanity is strongest when it beats for its youngest.
The submission itself sounds nice. And to my amazing and peculiar Sussex family, thank you all for watching our videos and tuning in to Daily Diaries Friday's update. Keep it light, keep it there, and see you next time in our next episode. Bye-bye. May you have a good day and a good time. Keep shining. Bye-bye.